The air over the Strait of Hormuz is thick with tension. It is a tension you can almost see and feel. Imagine a narrow ribbon of water, the world's most critical oil artery, now a stage for a perilous military standoff. Here, sleek American warships, gray sentinels of the U.S. Navy, patrol with a menacing stillness. They are part of a blockade that grips Iran's ports, a steel net intended to bring a nation to its knees. Above, the sky is a crisscrossing web of vapor trails left by fighter jets. F-18s and F-35s scream through the clouds, their pilots on high alert, fingers hovering near triggers. This is the front line of a new and dangerous war. On the other side of this invisible line are the forces of Iran. Their smaller, faster patrol boats dart across the waves, a constant and unpredictable challenge to the American naval presence. They are a swarm of hornets defending their nest. Iran has declared these waters under its own new rules, demanding that foreign warships stay away and that commercial vessels seek its permission to pass through. It is a bold and defiant move, a direct challenge to the United States and its allies. The Strait, once a highway for global commerce, has become a choke point of conflict, where a single miscalculation could lead to a catastrophic escalation. The world watches this maritime drama with bated breath. Oil tankers, the colossal lifeblood of the global economy, wait in agonizing limbo. They are anchored in the Arabian Sea, their captains receiving conflicting orders as diplomats argue and generals plan their next moves. Today, the strait was briefly reopened by Iran, a flicker of hope that sent oil prices tumbling. But that hope was extinguished almost as quickly as it appeared. Iran has slammed the door shut again, demanding the end of the American blockade. The message is clear: there will be no peace and no oil until their demands are met. This precarious situation is the new reality in the Middle East. The tension is not just at sea, it is in the war rooms of Washington and Tehran, in the halls of the United Nations, and in the homes of millions of people who live under the shadow of this conflict. For weeks, the world has been teetering on the edge of a wider war, and nowhere is that danger more apparent than here, in the shimmering contested waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Every ship, every jet, every soldier is a piece in a deadly game of geopolitical chess, and the next move could be the one that changes everything. The current crisis did not begin in the waters of the Gulf. It began with an explosion of fire and fury from the sky. On February 28, 2026, the world awoke to the shocking news of Operation Epic Fury. In a series of meticulously coordinated and devastating strikes, the United States and Israel targeted the heart of the Iranian regime. Tomahawk missiles and bombs from stealth aircraft rained down on military and nuclear facilities across Iran. The operation was swift, and it was deadly. Its primary objective was not just to cripple Iran's capabilities, but to decapitate its leadership and change the course of the nation. The initial strikes achieved their most audacious goal. Iran's long-reigning supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed. Alongside him, other top commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps were eliminated. The U.S. administration, under President Donald Trump, declared the operation a success in its mission to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. They believed this decisive blow would force a change in Tehran. Instead, it lit a fuse that would set the entire region ablaze. The power vacuum was filled almost immediately, with Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, swiftly appointed as the new supreme leader, vowing revenge. Iran's retaliation was not long in coming. It was furious and widespread. Within hours of the initial American and Israeli assault, a storm of Iranian missiles and armed drones was unleashed across the Middle East. At least 390 missiles and over 800 drones screamed towards their targets. U.S. military bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, and Qatar were hit. Critical infrastructure in Saudi Arabia was targeted. For the first time, major population centers in allied Gulf states felt the direct impact of war. The conflict was no longer a distant threat. It had arrived on their doorsteps with terrifying force. The violence spiraled outwards with alarming speed. In response to rocket attacks from Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, Israel launched a full-scale invasion of southern Lebanon, initiating a brutal new front in the war. Simultaneously, the Houthi movement in Yemen, another Iranian ally, began launching its own long-range missiles towards Israel, adding another layer of complexity to the rapidly expanding conflict. What began as a targeted strike on Iran had, in a matter of days, morphed into a multi-front regional war, drawing in nations and militias from the Mediterranean to the Arabian Sea in a vortex of destruction. The weeks that followed the initial strikes have been a relentless cycle of attack and counterattack. The United States and Israel have continued their air campaign, using F-35 jets and B-2 bombers to systematically dismantle Iran's military infrastructure. They have targeted nuclear sites at Fordow and Natanz, missile production facilities and naval bases. The U.S. Navy reports having destroyed or damaged over 50 Iranian ships, part of the effort to enforce its blockade and degrade Iran's ability to fight. Yet, for every target hit, Iran seems to find a way to strike back, demonstrating a resilience and a reach that has surprised many observers. The human cost of this war is staggering and grows with each passing day. Across the region, an estimated 3.2 million people have been forced to flee their homes, creating a massive new wave of refugees. In Iran, early reports counted over 550 killed in the initial strikes. A tragic incident on March 11th saw a U.S. strike hit an elementary school, killing 175 civilians and sending shockwaves of anger across the globe. In Lebanon, the toll is even higher. The Lebanese Health Ministry reports that nearly 2,300 people have been killed since Israel's campaign against Hezbollah began, turning swaths of southern Lebanon and Beirut into rubble. The war has also claimed the lives of American service members. 13 have been killed in action since the conflict began, a grim reminder of the price of intervention. In a bizarre and tragic turn of events, Kuwaiti air defenses attempting to repel an Iranian missile barrage mistakenly shot down 3 U.S. fighter jets, highlighting the chaotic and unpredictable nature of this multi-front war. The war's impact is felt everywhere. Iranian strikes have hit civilian targets like Dubai's international airport and even Amazon data centers in the UAE and Bahrain, bringing the conflict directly into the commercial hubs of the Gulf. Behind the military maneuvers are determined political leaders. President Trump, supported by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, insists the blockade on Iran will not be lifted until a deal is 100% complete. In Tehran, the new Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi demand a complete cessation of hostilities and compensation for damages. Meanwhile, in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defies even American pressure, insisting his campaign to dismantle Hezbollah in Lebanon is far from over. Diplomacy has so far failed, with multiple ceasefire talks collapsing as each side believes it can still achieve its goals on the battlefield. This war, though centered in the Middle East, is a crisis with global consequences. Its most immediate and painful impact has been felt at the petrol pump. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the channel for roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply, sent shockwaves through energy markets. The price of Brent crude oil spiked to over $114 a barrel, a level not seen in years. This surge directly translates to higher costs for transport, manufacturing and heating for people all over the world. From London to Tokyo, the brief reopening of the strait saw prices dip, but its swift reclosure proves just how volatile the situation remains. The economic fallout extends far beyond oil prices. Global stock markets, particularly in Asia, plunged as the conflict erupted. The World Trade Organization now warns of a significant hit to global GDP if high energy prices persist. The United Nations estimates that Arab nations involved in or neighboring the conflict could lose between $120 and $194 billion in economic output. In an effort to stabilize the precarious energy supply, the International Energy Agency has released 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, and the U.S. Treasury has even temporarily waived sanctions on Russian oil, a desperate measure for desperate times. International efforts to de-escalate the crisis have been fragmented and largely unsuccessful. The United Nations Security Council has been paralyzed, with China and Russia resisting calls to authorize military force to reopen the strait. President Trump recently rejected an offer from NATO to assist in securing the waterway, preferring a unilateral American approach, while France and the United Kingdom are attempting to assemble their own multinational maritime mission. It is a slow and difficult process. Offers of mediation from China and a Russian proposal to safeguard Iran's uranium have been rebuffed by Washington, which remains committed to its strategy of maximum pressure. Ultimately, this conflict serves as a stark reminder of how interconnected our world has become. A war between two nations on opposite sides of the globe can disrupt supply chains, destabilize economies, and affect the daily lives of billions who are far removed from the fighting. The struggle for dominance in the Middle East is not a distant problem. It determines the price of our fuel, the stability of our markets, and the fragile balance of global peace. As the warships patrol the Strait of Hormuz and the diplomats argue, the world holds its breath, hoping for an off-ramp from a crisis that threatens to engulf us all.